And I'll just quickly introduce Erin. I think we all know and love Erin Hennessey with Hennessey Casting. Let's see, Erin's casting work in the Maritimes is extensive and impressive, casting actors on feature films such as Books of Blood, The Good House, Spinster, Polaroid, television series like Feudal, The Mist, Confessions of a Killer, Escaping the NXIVM Cult, The Lizzie Borden Chronicles, and commercials for radio and television. Erin was also the extras casting director on the CBC television hit show Mr. D for 79 episodes, and is currently casting background performers and actors for This Hour Has 22 Minutes, where she's worked on over 176 episodes. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
And we're recording this session as well, so if all goes well, we'll have it available to watch again afterwards for those that were not able to join us tonight. Yes.
There's not enough, Right. Great.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, Erin.
Thanks.
Very good. Well, we've got lots of questions, and I know, Kirstin, you've got the list there. We've had lots of members send in some of the questions that they like to ask you, and really, we're just a nice little discussion tonight and everything, and we're all excited. We heard Richard mentioning earlier, and Erin as well, that it looks like we're going to have an exceptionally busy season here. It's not been, we don't know this absolutely for sure yet, but everything we're hearing behind the scenes, there's talk of a couple series filming and some other activity as well. So that's what you're hearing, Erin?
Awesome. 5?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of rumors floating around. I generally don't like to ask producers. I don't like to send emails saying, hey, what's coming up? Because none of them will say anything to anybody until they have to say it. Everybody plays those cards very tight to their chest. So I tend to just keep my mouth shut. If I get a call, I get a call. Harassing people for like, hey, what's going on is not a thing that I subscribe to, because it just makes them annoyed. So I like to just leave it. I don't believe anything I hear until somebody actually calls me and says, this is happening.
Right.
But yes, apparently so many things. Wow, so many things.
Amazing. That's really exciting. So my first question is, how did you get into casting, and what's your favorite part of the job?
Well, I'll answer the first part of that question first. I'm originally from Newfoundland, and my mom is a movie producer from Newfoundland, and she started out doing documentaries. And so when I was a kid, when I was like 12, 13, 14, instead of having to like vacuum or stuff like that, she would drag me down to, we lived in Montreal at the time, and she would drag me down to Studio D, where I'd actually have to like log clips of film.
Oh my gosh.
Old school, yeah, into like, they would have those big sorting baskets, and I would have to like look at it and then log it and tag it and stuff like that. And I would also have to do transcribing for all of her interviews in order to get my allowance.
Wow.
And then later, I would do just like PA jobs and stuff. But then my first foray into like a crew position really was, I did craft. And you know what? I loved it. I'd craft and catering for little small like commercials and things in Newfoundland, but also when I moved here to Halifax, I started doing it here as well. But there was one show that I did in Newfoundland, not specifically because my mom was the local producer, but only because there was nobody else available in the province to do it. I did the local casting for a mini series called Random Passage, which at the time was like the largest Canadian mini series. It was 8 1-hours, and that was a big deal. So I cataloged all of the children and babies. It was a crazy story where like we watched children grow up through all the episodes. So I'd have to be constantly casting like lookalikes, and everybody had babies all the time. It was mad. Anyway, so I learned how to do the casting job, or at least to get the bones of it from being thrown into that against my will.
The best way to get
Yeah,
into
and
anything.
then I was like, I'm never doing that again. Can I just go back to doing production? So when I moved back to Halifax after that, I was just doing production, mostly for commercials. It just, the casting became a bigger and bigger thing as agencies got more and more particular. And we just were having trouble finding people who could keep up technologically because everything was changing. So I just kind of took it over out of frustration. And oh wait, I didn't answer.
Oh yeah.
Okay, what do I like about it the most? Was that the second part B of that?
Yeah.
I really, and it's tricky now because we don't get to do this because of COVID, but I love being in a room with an actor and just like having a really positive experience and just really working together to try different things to see what works. And I don't want them to leave until they're happy with what they've done.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like I really love that collaboration process because I want you guys to win. I really do. I do. Anyway, that's what I love the most, is just trying different things and also just keeping it light. I laugh so much with people in my room. That's it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
All right, I've got the next question here. What are the biggest mistakes you see actors make? We might talk about this a couple times in different questions later on here, but what comes to your mind right off the bat when you start thinking about that, Erin?
Like, are you talking about in auditions or just?
I think that's what the question was meant for. So yeah, when people come in the audition room, what are the biggest, but I think as well, what are the mistakes maybe that they make outside of that when you get interesting emails asking you questions or?
Well, let's just keep it to within, let's just keep it inside the audition space for now.
Perfect.
Yeah.
One of them would be, and look, I know this is hard because you can get an email from your agent or just from me. And like, I'm asking you to show up at an audition tomorrow. Nobody wants it to be like that. Mm. In a perfect world, I'd give you a week and I'd give you this huge flowery description about, the backstory without giving you the whole script because I'm not allowed to. But we just are never given that time. And as time goes on, we're given less and less and less time. So you are not as an actor given a whole lot of time to prepare or understand the scenario or the character, whatever. But knowing that, coming into the audition and saying, oh, I just got this 5 minutes ago. I feel you, I really do. But it's, we have to spend so much more time together, just kind of working it out and stuff. So, and it's hard because if there's a director in the room, then now we're lucky because I can't remember the last time I had a director in the room. They just generally don't do that anymore because it's all online. So it's like, you have to be prepared. Just prepare something. Even if you get the character wrong, if you get the context wrong, nobody cares about that. I promise. They just want to know if you can act. They want to see what you look like on camera and they want to know if you can act. They'll look at this and go, well, you totally misread the scene or whatever. Nobody cares about that because that is a direction that can be given later. It's just a commitment to, I chose this character. I made these choices for this character, given what you got to be creative and you've got to be committed and you got to be off book.
Yep. And the time constraint problem, that's just the job, right, Erin?
That's just a job. Like it's better now. I'm going to say it's better now that people are sending self-tapes. So my daily real estate is now limitless. So I don't have to say, oh, well, I can only see 17 people today. So I have to make choices about who those 17 people are going to be. Mm-hmm. Now it's going to be, listen, I can see everybody. everybody gets a shot because they're sending in
Great.
self-tapes, right? And I love that about where this is going. It's harder as well though, because actors don't get the benefit of like being in the room and like trying to like try different things and getting some direction and getting some backstory and all that other kind of stuff. We're just adapting. I'm adapting, you guys are adapting, so. Preparation and commitment though, commitment, right?
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, then on the flip side of that, and I think you touched on this a little bit, but what are the best things that actors do in the audition room? And on self-tapes?
I think just, I love it when somebody walks in the room and they are just like perfectly okay with it. With a kind of an attitude like, yep, this is fine. If I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. I'm not like, I haven't worked myself up into a frenzy about, and I know that's hard to do, to be that confident person, but it really does make a difference when somebody just walks in the room and owns it, but it not in a like a, not in a way where they're kind of, you know, obnoxious about it, but just, hi, how are you? Makes eye contact with everybody in the room, shakes hands, introduces himself. Also has their like their headshot and their resume if they have been asked to bring it, and then takes the time to ask a few questions maybe, and to adjust what they have had prepared.
Great. Do you like when people ask questions?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, good. Time permitting.
Right.
Time permitting. Because I mean, again, I don't always have, and I honestly don't always get feedback from producers, directors, other casting directors about, you know, what sort of person they're looking for, what's in, you know, what's this character, like, there's just, everything happens so quickly, they just fire it out and we all have to just make it up as we go along. Like, I'm like, is this woman kind of like this? And I can send all these emails out that no one ever answers. And I just go, okay, well, I'm gonna guess based on the script, you know, but I will, you know, bring in people accordingly as well. I'm not just sort of blindly groping in the dark, you know. I have ideas in my head about who this character could be, and it's a broad range of people. It's not limited to like, you know, this supermodel and this mom type or whatever it is. Like, I like to throw in a lot of different types because I don't know what they want, because they don't have time to tell me what they want.
Right. And they might not know either.
No, often they don't.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Chris, do you have another question?
Yeah, I got another question. Lots of questions about self-tapes happening now. And the particular question we have, what are the biggest self-tape mistakes that you see?
I mean, a lot of it is technical.
Yeah.
A lot of it is technical. And I don't expect everybody to run out and spend thousands of dollars on equipment. But there's a basic, like, get yourself, find an area in your house where you are close to your router, because you're probably going to be having to Zoom at some point, right? Figure out where the best reception is. You also have to figure out your lighting. You don't want to be backlit against a window. This is also bad. I don't know, just like experiment with what you can do in your house so that none of us are expecting you to have like this really sexy lighting system. We're really not. Your audio has to be good and your video has to be clear, and it has to be in landscape, which is a rectangle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not this. It has to be this, not this. And we got to be able to see your face. And, you know, it's really hard because if depending on what kind of smartphone or iPad or whatever you're working with, and how it reacts to low lighting and stuff like that, it's really difficult. And you really have to take it upon yourself to just play with the camera and play with different areas in your home that work. Because, you know, you can submit a video to me where you just absolutely kill it and I can hear what you're saying and I know that it was good, but like I can't see your face because you're in front of a window with sunlight outside.
Yeah. No, thanks. Christopher Anderson just wrote in the chat and he said there's great, reasonably priced ring lights on Amazon and other sites, which we've all seen lots of lately. Yeah.
You don't have to spend a fortune. Lots of the stuff is cheap. So the ring lights, everything like that. But you know, get a tripod or a stand. You can use that with your phone or an iPad or just whatever else you're using to film yourself. Just something that's steady. You know, obviously getting a friend to help you is probably optimal, easier, but it's absolutely doable if you're on your own.
And then there's another question. Charlene Khalil asks, in this day and age of mostly self-tape auditions, does the acting ability of your reader make a difference? I ask because I live only with kids, and due to the lack of lots of time, I'm often scrambling to find someone to read for me. Does that make a big difference?
You know what? Not to me, but I think it does to actors. It's hard to focus, I think. And for the viewer, it can be a little distracting if your reader is not terrific. Ways around that are to try and get your reader as far away from your microphone as you can and tell them to just totally be completely deadpan and as quiet as possible. The other thing that is possible to do is to make a video where you read the lines, or make an audio recording where you read the lines and then you react yourself. That's a little more fiddly, but if you have to go with like a live reader, I would say get whoever it is to just be as small and as quiet as possible. We don't care what they're saying. We already know the lines. We just want to hear what you're saying, right? So
yep.
And I get it. This is hard to do at home. I get it. It's hard.
Yeah. And right now, especially because we don't always want someone coming into our homes right now because of COVID. So it's like
no. And I promise you, no one's going to judge you if your reader is shitty. I promise.
Great.
But it can be distracting, and it can be distracting for you as well as an actor.
Well, I just wrote in that his wife reads as well for him. And I think a lot of people find that family members reading at home for them or whatever, especially now during COVID and everything. So
just, yeah, and that's all good. Just make sure that they're keeping their audio like barely audible. And just fairly deadpan. You don't want to be feeding energy into the scene if you're a reader who is not an actor. Just say the line.
And they're generally closer to the camera that's filming as well, so they should be talking a bit lower because they're going to be getting picked up at a higher volume.
Keep the voice down. Keep the voice down. Yeah.
There's another question that came in. If I can't find a reader, but I'm able to follow the script and story, is that still okay? Or is it strongly suggested to have a reader? Can somebody just read their own lines?
Yeah, in a pinch, sure. Absolutely. I've never been in a room with a producer or a director where they're like, oh my God, is he just reading his own lines to himself? It's the reason you don't get the job is never going to be because of any of that stuff.
Awesome.
Like they really, like, honestly, they just want to know if you can do the gig. We had an audition on Feudal, and this woman was doing her audition and she was killing it. And we just kept hearing this like bang, bang, bang. And she was trying to keep it together. And then finally the door opened, when she was in her bedroom, the door opened and this little tiny child came in yelling, and she looked mortified, and she said, "I'm really sorry." And we were all like, no, this is fine. This is normal. Do you need a couple minutes to just sort this out? And she was horrified, and you don't need to be horrified. You don't. We all had, the producers and the director and we all had like a chuckle about it, because everybody else is parents too. We get it, right? So she sorted her stuff out and she came back. It's never going to be about stuff like that. Never.
That's really good to know, because we worry about those things a lot. We actor type people.
Don't.
Yeah. Chris, what were you going to read there? Emily Jewer's comment?
Yeah, well, Emily wrote in and she said, "I've used actor friends on Zoom to read for me, and it works well. Sometimes they have to jump on my lines a little quicker to deal with the lag, but it works." Great tip.
Yeah. So if you can't find a reader, you can, get somebody on Zoom or the phone, on speakerphone or something.
I think one of the things you guys have to bear in mind about the self-tapes is that it's round one. Okay, there's going to be a round two, possibly a round three. So in terms of getting like the lag thing and all those technical details exactly right, please do not sweat it. They can tell by looking at your preliminary first self-tape, they can tell if you have potential, if they like the way you look, the way you sound, if you feel like you're a good fit for this character. They're going to say, "I want to see this person again." Don't sweat the minutia, please.
I love that. I have a question. I'm going to jump down a little bit, Chris. Real talk, Erin, what do producers say, like from other markets, like Toronto, for example, what are they saying about ACTRA Maritimes members?
Number one, there's not enough diversity.
Okay.
Number two, and let's be real about this. A lot of the shows that come here, we're getting a lot of shows from the States. And they are also looking for beautiful people. And, the actors here are competing with actors in Toronto who get to do this full time, right? Who spend a lot of their time going to the gym and getting their hair done and getting facials and doing all of that stuff. And just constantly workshops and courses and all that extra training, and you see it on their resumes. And they look at the resumes, they do. It's not just about what does this person look like. And there's obviously, it's not just like the pretty people that we're after, it's also, the character actors as well. I guess it's the training, a lot of it, but as much as you want to say to a producer, like, well, that's not what it's like here. It's not the reality for people here. We get a job season. So what are they supposed to do for the rest of the year? Real jobs. These are real people with real jobs, who can't just do every workshop that there is and drop everything at the drop of a hat to go attend, this session or that session. We're just in a really tricky position to compete with larger markets. Yes, I know it's a real job, Diane.
So continued training is definitely something that we're lacking.
Continued training, but also like, your physical health, your mental health,
keep yourself looking tight.
Your appearance, all of that other stuff is important, because those are the people you're competing with who do nothing except acting.
And we had a
Great.
unique situation last year, Erin, with shows like Chapelwaite and Feudal, where Chapelwaite in particular, where they hired an enormous amount of ACTRA Maritimes members for acting roles.
Yeah, that was great.
All to do with all the events that took place last year, and because they lived in Nova Scotia and didn't have COVID and everything. What do you think is going to happen this year? It's hard to know, but I mean, right now, like we talked earlier today about how Toronto's kind of really a lot locked down compared to us right now and everything. What's going to happen during the upcoming months?
Yeah.
Is for casting calls for different productions that are coming, and where is the cast going to come from? How much cast do you think can come from away with quarantine?
Well, we're in a really interesting position now because everything has gone online. That it's easier for casting to happen quickly, which means that casting directors from outside this province can also just kind of swoop in and go, oh yeah, well, I can do local casting there because I'll just go on casting workbook or whatever it is, and everybody can submit, which is fast and convenient. I think it's a little problematic though, because if you are an actor that doesn't have a casting workbook account or an Actors Access account or an agent, then there's a potential there for you to be overlooked by a casting director who's not local, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm kind of torn because, you know, while it's giving us all a platform, like when I send casting calls out and I receive auditions from actors, I submit all of them. And I know that was a question that was asked previously, how many auditions actually make it in front of the director. All of them.
Awesome.
All of them. I have given up trying to figure out what it is they want, because I'll go, this guy was great, and he'll go, no, and I'm like, well, she was all right, and he'll be like, oh, I love her, and I'm like, you know what, just here they all are, just tell me which ones you like. I have zero influence over who they ultimately pick. I can make suggestions, but at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, and especially with these larger productions, it's, they've got a mothership in Los Angeles, the network people who've got to have the final say. And at the end of the day, they have a bazillion dollars. And even if it's 2 lines, they'll be like, oh, wow, what about that girl that was in an episode of blah, blah, let's fly her in. However, that is not as likely to happen anymore. Thanks, COVID.
Yay.
So that is kind of a silver lining in all this, I guess, because there are going to be local actors are now so much more cost effective. Let's just lay it on the line, right? Without the quarantining and all that other jazz. Right now, yeah. That's where it puts Nova Scotia actors in a good position, for sure.
That's great. That's great for us. Awesome. I have a couple of other questions, kind of about self-tapes a little bit. And yeah, so one thing is, if the sides aren't very long, like if it's just one short scene, would you mind 2 different takes of the same scene in a self-tape?
No, it's fine. It's fine.
It's fine?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Great.
I mean, what we want to avoid is people sending in like 7 takes of the first scene and then another 7 takes of the other scene, because like the people who are, I don't have time to edit your tapes. And then the people who are reviewing are just like, they're going to watch 2 versions of you doing the same scene, and then they're just going to keep moving. So
they just won't watch it.
Yeah, they won't.
Okay, so keep it short, but yes, if a couple of different different ways of doing it. It's best
if you start with like your favorite take for each scene to go. So if you have like scene 1, take your favorite take. If you want to include like 2 or even 3, 2 would be enough. Put your favorite take at the front, and then for scene 2, put your favorite take for scene 2 on the front.
Okay.
Just because they're scrolling. That's what they do.
Yeah. Okay, great. And then on that same vein, how much mime or business do you think is appropriate? Should we pretend to drive a car if the scene's in a car, or eat a sandwich, or, you know, if it's in the stage directions, how much of that is appropriate? Because we worry about that stuff too.
It's a ridiculous question. I sometimes, when I used to be able to see people in the studio, I would just like hand them a thing. If they were struggling in a scene, I would just like hand them a thing. So even if it's like a pen and a clipboard or whatever the hell it is, just so that they have something else to focus on besides looking at the camera and me, right? That just makes you feel more kind of in the moment. Don't go bananas with the props. You can just keep it very simple, just so it gives you something to look away to and then back and stuff like that.
Okay. I think that answers it for me. Chris, did you have any?
Yeah, I've got two things.
Question?
Yeah, sure. Well, Maddie Martin wrote in and he said, I might have missed this, but can you wing it with your lines as long as you get the point across? Does this make sense to you?
Yes, a lot of the times, yes. And often I will tell you, it's more about commercials. Don't love it when you wing it. But for a film and television, that's usually okay. It's usually okay. I mean, they'll get you back on point on the day, but they also love people who can just sort of explore the character and come up with their own lines. And you also run in the danger of people, you know, them stealing the lines that you created. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, improv is great. You don't have to be contained in the box at all.
That's really good to know.
That is really good to know. A couple other quick ones. Tom Payne is asking, do we need long hair in the spring? Good question, Tom. Erin's thinking. You can always cut
yes.
it. Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's it. You can't make your hair longer, but you can make it shorter. So if you're growing it, keep growing it.
Grow out your COVID hair, everybody.
Grow out your COVID hair, grow out the beard, just do that. I don't know what the hell's coming. I really don't.
No,
will they want everybody to be bald? Will they want everybody to have hair down to their arses? I don't know.
Now, George Green has a question back about, he's just wondering about when you're doing your audition, looking directly into the camera versus looking at your reader. This usually varies depending on what you're actually reading for. If you're a host for something, reading for a commercial or something, looking directly at the camera. But generally speaking, when you're seeing people read scenes and the reader's on the other side of the camera, usually making their eye line not directly down the camera, but looking at the reader. Yeah.
Yep.
And Mike Chandler, should we dress for the part we're auditioning for?
Sure. Just don't go overboard. Right? It can be like more of a suggestion, right? If you're supposed to be, you know, somebody's boss, yeah, wear a tie. But you know, you don't need to come in with like a briefcase and
so the full doctor's outfit with the gown and the stethoscope.
It can just be a suggestion. It can be a suggestion of that character.
Yeah.
You don't have to go crazy. And also, if you have a real job, right? And then you don't have time to go home and get all your stuff or whatever, just show up as you are. No one cares what you're wearing. The suggestion of the outfit, you know, dressing for the part, it does actually, it can help. It's not crucial. Really what they want to know is, what do you look like and can you act? The end.
Perfect.
Good. And very good to know.
I've got one more, Kirstin, here. It's from the list from earlier. What advice would you give actors who are having trouble being seen for film and television roles? And we get this question a lot, and I know that there are a number of people that ask this question that are not on the casting workbook, they're not on Actors Access, they're not signed up properly on our ACTRA online talent database. They don't have a picture on the IMDb. So there is that sort of situation that can be fixed by maybe trying to get involved with some of those things. But if someone is 100% perfect and has done all that stuff, what advice would you give them about being seen for film and TV auditions if they don't seem to be getting any for a certain period of time?
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, it's not like every film that comes here has a part for every single type of person, right? Like right now, for example, and going back to an earlier question about, you know, what producers are saying about what they don't see here in Nova Scotia. It is hot guys. Right, like the 25 to like 40-ish guys with the abs and the pecs and the, you know, perfectly hair and who can act as well. We don't have a lot of those.
I remember you bringing those guys in like from PEI of all places, but yeah, searching hard.
And yeah, so but you know, and often those people when they get some kind of measure of success here, they do move on to places elsewhere too. What was the question again? Sorry, I did derail.
What
Absolutely. Kirstin, you're gonna say?
Oh yeah, what you know, if somebody is not being seen consistently, what can they do to make their profile look better so they get auditions?
It's just keep your photos updated. You know, if you go on I don't know if the ACTRA members have access to the ACTRA database or not. But honestly, there's some folks on there whose profiles are like, their profile photos are in some cases like 15 to 20 years out of date.
This is completely true. I think some people don't even know this, and if they were to actually log in, because pictures that used to be in our ACTRA database got merged into their ACTRA online. They've never logged in. They haven't checked it out. But then if they go and look, they'll see a headshot of them from 1998 with a great big head of curly hair. Yeah. That's me, actually. No, but yeah.
No, and you know, and for sites like, you know, Casting Workbook or My Site or whatever it is, just like to keep that shit fresh, right? You know, I don't want anybody to run out and spend money on headshots, although, you know, I'm not going to discourage it. You know, you guys are paying for enough shit already just to stay in this game. But, you know, is there a cute picture of you on Facebook that your nephew took of you recently or at your sister's wedding or whatever that looks like you right now? Right now. That's the person they expect to show up on set. You know, if they want to change your hair, they'll change your hair. Don't worry about that stuff. Should I dye my hair red? Should I dye my hair whatever? They're just, those things can be conquered later. You just have to keep on top of your materials and also just keep learning stuff.
Awesome. Chris, for those who don't know, how do they get onto to see the database that you were just talking about? What's the website?
Yeah, we can put it out by email again and put it on our Facebook group. But yeah, we have something called ACTRA Online, and Erin does use it a lot and everything. And she wishes, I know, that more of us were on there and that we updated it. And I think for all of us,
I know, because every time I go on there and I find something that makes me angry, I send a message to Chris. And I'm like, why is this a thing?
And it's fabulous comedy.
Well, there it is.
There's people on there who don't have a photo at all and 0 credits. It's just a name. Yep. Like, what am I going to do with that if I'm out of town casting director? What am I doing with that?
Yeah, no, and Christopher Anderson posted the link for us all here. It's actraonline.ca. And Richard Hadley also mentioned that there is a machine, I think it's still there, at Scotia Square that does good headshots, and the cost is $20. And a lot of people have gotten good pictures out of there. There's something weird about them. Yes. They do a little ring around your eyeballs or whatever and stuff. But
yeah, you know what? It's fine. No one is going to look at that and say, oh, well, that headshot was weird. Did you see the rings in her eyeballs?
And they look way better than...
it just
Most
need
of
to
it.
have a decent, good photo of what you look like right now. That's it.
Absolutely. And we're talking about that. What about the casting workbook? What do you think about that for our members? Because we have a certain percentage of members that are on there, but a lot that aren't. Do you think it's a useful, helpful thing for them to be on there?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I absolutely do. What I don't love about it, though, is that you have to pay to become a member of it. And it's not super cheap. It's the same thing with ACTRA. I personally like to use it. It's the shows that I work on. So my Toronto casting director will be using a casting workbook or actors, or whatever it is. But I will negotiate with my local producer to say, can I just use my website? Because it's faster and easier for me. And they're like, yeah, I don't care. But I don't like the idea that actors have to, and some productions are saying, like, if you don't have an account on one of these sites, you cannot submit. To me, that feels like if you don't pay the money, you can't audition for the projects. And that kind of rubs me the wrong way.
No, absolutely.
So the fact that actors have to pay to belong to any of these things, and that some productions are saying, unless you have an account on either one of these sites, you cannot submit your auditions. Now, if you have an agent, that's not true. Your agent can create a dummy account for you, but that's a lot of extra work for your agent, and it looks like shit. And it's not as like everybody else who has a paid account, their profile on those sites is a lot sexier. Their dummy account comes up as like a grayed out sort of general, anyway. It's kind of just not cool. But it is what it is. So.
And the last thought on that, you have your fabulous Hennessey website, which is free for everyone. What can we all do to make ourselves stand out better on there? Because I know we talk about this a lot as well. And from changing our address, if it's changed, make sure we have our updated phone numbers or emails, updated pictures. What can we do to back to this question about being seen for film and TV roles and make sure that you know where we are? What can we do?
So there is a kind of an unlimited gallery of photos that you can. So just go into your Hennessey casting or whatever other site that you use, go in there and look at your gallery of photographs. If you have anything in there that's more than 5, if your hair is a different color, if you weigh 40 pounds more, 40 pounds less, whatever the hell it is, get rid of that. They don't care what you used to look like. They want to know what you look like right now. If they want you, they can imagine you with red hair. I promise, right? They just, they want to know what you look like right now. So you have to keep all your material fresh. And again, you don't have to go run out and get professional headshots. Just like take selfies. Those are great, right? You think you look cute? Super. Put it up there. Is it your hair color now? Great.
Copy.
Good. Just keep everything fresh. And for God's sake, please update your contact information. All of it. All of it.
Absolutely. And Kevin Giroir mentioned as well about our wardrobe and costume sizes as well. So
yeah,
changed to make
on some shows it's not going to matter. Like if it's a present day show, you're going to be wearing your own clothes for the most part. But if it's well, that's more of a background thing. But if it's a period show, it's super important, because how embarrassing is it if you're like, oh, I have a size 18 waist or whatever. And I'm like, perfect. You can be starving zombie number 3. And then you go down there and the missus is like, I can't put you anywhere. I'm like, and then I get shit on because I'm like, well, I didn't.
So honesty.
Yes.
Honesty is important, you would say.
Well, be realistic, because nobody wants to be put in a position like that, so just, there's going to be something for everybody. Not everybody is going to be tiny enough to be starving zombie number 3, but there's going to be something else. So just hold out for that.
But that's my dream role, Erin.
Me too. But I'm not allowed because of this whole conflict of interest thing.
Oh, I know. I have another question.
Yep.
If you're asked to send a self-tape and for some reason you don't get it up to the level that you'd want it to be, like maybe you're having a technical issue, or better to send something in, great.
Yes.
So don't send nothing.
Don't send nothing, absolutely. Because what's happened is if you've been asked to submit a self-tape, then that casting director has a deadline. And she's told all of her people, like, yeah, I'm gonna have all your shit in by whatever day, at whatever time. So you can't just keep adding, oh, somebody else just sent theirs in, or just somebody put theirs in, because they don't have, they've allotted time in the day to review self-tapes. So they all get together and they have an hour and they look at tapes. So I can't say, oh, well, I'm still got like 5 outstanding and I'll tell you when they come in, because they're gone. They're in the wind, they're on set, they're doing stuff. It's too late. So it's really important to pay attention to deadlines. And I get, if you have shit happening, just say like, I can't get it together. And I'll be like, you know what, send me your self-tape anyway, probably. And if I get a chance, I will let them know. But 90% of the time you won't get seen if you do that. I'll fight for you if I can. One of the things that I wanted to talk about was about casting directors in Halifax or Nova Scotia not necessarily fighting for local actors. And I think that that's a big misconception, or local producers or directors for that matter. And I think that there's a really big misconception that needs to be cleared up. A huge part of my job, and I'm kind of competitive as well. So if I'm doing the local casting on a series or a film, and I'm also working with a casting director, usually in Toronto, but sometimes also in LA, New York, whatever, I'm under a tremendous amount of pressure from the producers here to fill as many roles as possible with local actors for no other reason except that they don't want to spend money flying people in here and putting them up in hotels. And especially with COVID now, they got to fly you in and put you up for 2 weeks just to quarantine. And then they probably got to pay for them to quarantine when they get home. So that's a huge extra expense. The amount of blood, sweat, and tears that goes into weaving every single available local actor in front of the producers and the directors who are local or from out of the province is insane. And part of my job, and I feel like I'm not doing my job well if I lose any of those roles to actors from outside this province. And I'm super competitive about it. And I take it personally when they go, yeah, no, we're gonna get this guy. I get upset. I feel mad. And like, no, it's not you. They just like this other guy better. I'm like, well, but I had, we go through a lot of effort. And it's not just me, it is also the local producers will fight for local actors, not just because it's going to be cheaper for them in the long run, but also because they just want to put local actors in the movie. We want you to win. We want you to be successful. We really do. I want to be able to be good at my job. Right, I'll stop yelling.
I like it when you yell. No, that's really great to hear, and you are in our corner, and we appreciate all the work you do for us.
And
so
it's
much.
not just me. It
Absolutely.
is not just me.
Yeah.
It's not just me. It's all the like Magic Rock folks and the Mike Volpes of the world. Like, honestly,
yeah,
we want to put Nova Scotia bums in those actor roles. We really do. But we are, it's, a lot of the time it's on the bigger shows or folks from LA, and the network people have the final say, but we do whatever we can. I promise.
So then what can we do? I think you've probably already gone over it, but anything else we can do to help you so that we can be better ready, better prepared, better looking, like all of the things you already outlined, but is there anything else that
I know it's hard. You just have to fight harder, and you just have to bring it more. You know, get a coach. I'm not going to say who, you know, run the lines with somebody else. I know you're not always going to have time to do that, but don't leave it till the last minute, because we can tell, they can see it.
And I've heard you praise a number of our local actors, Erin, saying that they're totally bringing it when they're going in for the auditions. So
Yeah,
some
absolutely.
folks, yeah.
Absolutely.
So I guess we
I
can
know
all
this
try to aspire to
is
that.
here because, you know, it's almost like this is seasonal work for us. I think we're going to get to a point where that, like, the winter window is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. I think we're going to get there, especially with this whole global warming thing. It's going to be great.
Yay!
Yay! Well, a couple last quick things. Richard Hadley says, Kirstin, you couldn't be any better looking. There you go.
Thanks.
True. And George Green wrote it. George is very excited. He has an audition for Digstown. I think he's auditioning for Steve the Lawyer.
Super.
He wants to know, yeah, hooray, George. He wants to know if there's an update on the preferred slate method these days. Information casting directors want in the slate at the beginning or end of audition. And he says, it sounds silly, but not working steadily. It is easy to get out of date on what casting directors want now.
You know what? I used to like the slate at the beginning and just like your name and the role that you're reading for. But now that everything is online, so when I upload your video, at the bottom of your video, there's already a title that says what your name is and the role you're reading for. So if you want a slate, I've kind of switched to like, hey, slate at the end, or don't slate at all. Doesn't matter, because your name is already on the title card the whole way through your audition. Plus you're in a website in a grid where like all your information is already there anyway. So slating is kind of a bit obsolete.
Oh, thanks for that, Erin.
Yeah, word on the street that I've heard too.
And Mike Chandler just was adding to that. He said, what about height? Should that be in the slate?
Only if you're asked, because the only reason they ask about height is when they're concerned about a member of the like cast or the leads who are like extremely tall or very, very short. They want to know what everybody else's height is without having to like look at it. So it hasn't been a thing that everybody needs to do. It's just about, you know, if I have the love interest for this 5'10" woman should not be a man who is like 5'7". Do you know what I mean? Right. It's just a quick way for them to go, oh, okay. We'll let you know if you need that information.
Right. Yeah. I have another quick question. If an actor is self-represented, what is your preferred way for that actor to check in with you?
You don't have to check in with me. I do often post open casting calls, which if you're on my mailing list, you'll get those. But in addition to whenever I'm on a show, I will start with, when I'm sending out auditions, breakdowns, I'll start with actors who are represented, mostly because that is the easiest thing and quickest thing for me to do. All these people have agents, bang, bang. I can get the agents to do some of that work. And then I will go start looking through my database for people who are self-represented, or people who are represented by agents out of town, if those agents aren't necessarily aware that we're doing this thing down here. It's just, I can't do everything in the same 5 minutes. When I post a breakdown, there is a process that I have to go through. So once I do that, and then, once I've exhausted all that, then I will start looking at non-union people if I'm just really getting desperate. But it rolls out in that order. So if you have an agent, great. If you're self-represented, I'm still looking for you. And I'm looking in not just my website, but I'm looking at ACTRA online as well. And casting workbook, but casting workbook is kind of a shit show. for people who are self-represented, right?
Yeah, and do you ever want people to email you or send you a Facebook message to say, hi, I'm in town and I'm available for auditions, anything like that.
It's not necessary. It's not necessary. And my Facebook is not really for, I don't have a business Facebook account that answers questions. It's just my personal account. So I'm not crazy about that. You can send a message. There's a contact me link on my website. But it's just, you know, it's not hard to find out when I have gigs going. It's pointless to email me and say, hey, what's coming up? Because I don't know. I don't know. I honestly don't know what shows I'm going to be on already this year. It's not Mr. D, like season 4 or whatever. And I'm like, they got greenlit, yay. And then like all these people are getting hired and going, yeah, I'm going to be working on Mr. D. And I'm like, that's weird. I didn't get a call. So I sent an email to Volpe and I was like, did I do something wrong, or am I fired or whatever? He's like, shit, you didn't get any emails or anything yet? I'm like, no. He's like, oh God, sorry. And then my inbox filled up with all of this paperwork because they just forget me. Like, oh yeah, no. Anyway, and that's not unusual. That happens quite a lot, where I'm like the last person they remember to include on the big old distribution list. So I don't sweat it anymore. Brutal, yes. Because I'm like sleeping. I'm like sleepless for nights going, what did I do to my Volpe? In what way did I offend this man?
All over.
Yes.
Amazing.
I have trauma.
Well, we're almost to the end of our hour. Do you have any parting thoughts, or Chris, did you want to ask anything else?
No, I think we're at 7:03. You're right, and we're ready to wrap it up.
Okay, I just want to say one thing.
Yes.
I want to say a couple things.
Love it.
Whether it's my site or Casting Workbook or Actors Access, like honestly, get your shit updated right now. And that's fresh photos, make sure your contact information, and if you've changed your agent recently, please make those changes. If you've moved from ACTRA to ACTRA Apprentice, make those changes. Just make sure it's fresh, and it's going to be a crazy season. So you need to be on the ball. That means checking your email, if not once, maybe even twice a day, but at least one time. And
no,
also
very
your
true. And I know, Erin, that you are looking for some of our actors sometimes at nighttime and everything for actual acting parts that come out of the blue, and the phone number you have, no one's answering it, and the email, no one's looking at it or whatever. So now this is extra early for us this year that things are happening, but we all need to be.
So it's a good idea if you don't if you're not a person who looks at their email all the time, the last email that you got from me, even if it was from like the mailing list casting call thing or direct evil for me, go in there, make that a VIP in your mailing client, and then see if you can set up an alert, because that way you'll get like a ding or something whenever you get an email from me. Also, if you have, because all of our stuff comes out from, we have an automated SMS thing on the website. Check how you receive your SMS messages on your phone. If it's, it should be set to, you can receive messages from anyone instead of like blocking unknown people who are not in your contacts or stuff like that. And the same goes with your email as well. What's really tricky is if you're on my website, it's ideal if you're using like a Gmail address or a Hotmail address rather than like, your Halifax Regional Police address. Anything that is a domain will automatically block my HennesseyCasting.com website as spam. So you want to just like get a generic web address that lets you control what spam comes to you and what doesn't. I mean, not that the police have blocked me. Anyway.
Awesome.
Fun.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Erin, and thank you everybody for being here and for your wonderful questions. I'm so pleased to see how many participants we had. We're up to,
Yeah,
I think
me
we were up
too.
to 50 at one point. We've got 47 right now. And good luck everyone on all your auditions this season.
It'll be a
Yay!
big one. All
Thanks,
right,
everyone.
you're all good. You're all good. You have
Thanks,
the
Erin.
power. Let's go.
This has been
You're welcome.
fabulous.
Goodbye, everybody.
Wonderful.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
joining us.
I go now.
You can go. Nighty night, everybody. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.